Hey guys, welcome back to Hippo Supercoach, and today we're going to be going over, in my opinion, what are the biggest 5 traps in Supercoach, and this is after the practice games, obviously. These are going to probably surprise you. My opinions are quite different to the mainstream of Supercoach community, but in my opinion, these guys are traps, so let's get straight into it. Number one's going to definitely surprise you, Tom Stewart. Now you guys are probably wondering, why is he a trap? How could he possibly be a trap? Well, he's starting at 604k, right? And his break even is 110. Definitely gettable. However, if you look at his first 6 games, he has got 2 teams in there that are very likely to tag. And I think after 6 weeks, I think we could get him for about 550, maybe even lower, because I think he's going to have 2 really poor scores. So he has, Collingwood won't tag him, Carlton probably won't, Gold Coast probably won't, but Hawthorn, we know if they're tagging, they love to tag halfbackers. If they're tagging Nick Dacos in the practice match, I think Stewart's an absolute must they go to. I'm trying to think of midfielders that would be tagged by anyone, and I don't think there's anyone at Geelong that'll be tagged. I mean, maybe if Bruin explodes early, maybe, but I just think they're going to Tom Stewart. They know he's damaging. He's been a tag target before. He's been actually tagged a few times. So I think McGuinness and Ryan Clark from Sydney will probably go to Tom Stewart. All right. So this is why I think he's a trap. I don't think he's a trap for the whole season, but just as a starting pick, I think he is an absolute fade. And like I said, the reason being, I just think we'll get him a bit cheaper. And if you start him, you probably have to accept that round 4 and 6, he's probably going below, definitely below 90, but probably below 80, which is, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a pain for someone you pay 600k for. So for me, I just think there's better options to start with, who I don't think will be tagged anytime soon, or at least early on. So yeah, that's my opinion on Tom Stewart. And yeah, people will still start him. I think he's in how much percent of teams? He's in 35% of teams, so nearly 40,000 teams. Yeah, but like I said, I wouldn't be starting him. Going down the list, so a lot of these guys are going to be in high ownership, okay? Because we don't want to, all these guys that are 1% owned, obviously they're going to be kind of trappy because, no one has them. But I'm taking out some big dogs in the ownership percentage. The next guy I'm going to talk about is Radigalea. So I think he is a trap. He's going to be not starting in my team, I don't think. I think the job security is pretty terrible and the role isn't great. So I think he would be just a pass. And it's a bit awkward if you have him. I mean, I guess you could use him as a loophole, but 170k, I think you could use that 70k somewhere else, and it could make a pretty big impact on your team. So yeah, Radigalea, not much to say about him, but I just think, yeah, once Jack Henry comes back, Radigalea goes out, because I don't think he's quite good enough to play like that great intercept role at AFL level, at least. So next one is Stephen Coniglio. So someone who, it's funny how things change, because he was an absolute lock for me. Yeah, so let's have a look at this tweet. This has changed everything. So Stephen Coniglio, GW West Giants coach Adam Kingsley have said he's fine. Just a corky, he'll be fine. He's an elite midfielder in the past. We need to try and re-establish that. He has the weapons to go forward. We will utilise both of them. So basically, he has just come out and said, you know what, we're going to play Cogs forward as well as midfield. He's kind of contradicted himself a bit because he said that he's an elite midfielder in the past. We need to re-establish that. But he's saying we will utilise both of them. And whether this is resting, just like purely resting forward, maybe. It could be just a rest forward. But for me, 550k, it's not something I want to take a risk on when there's plenty of value in that forward line. And like with players like Cogs and Rosie and even Taranto, I think you can get them much cheaper. They're not like the midfielders that are going to be 650k and really hard to get in. You're going to be able to get pretty much every forward, barring Dunkley, a lot cheaper than what they, or maybe not a lot cheaper than what they are now, but similar price to what they are now. So I don't think it's an absolute disaster if you don't start like a Coniglio or a Rosie. But yeah, for me, I just think there are some better value options, and yeah, I just don't like. I don't like the insecurity in that role because we know how poorly Cogs scores when he's played on the forward line. So yeah, I don't rate that at all. So Cogs is probably a pass for me. Yeah, I think he's a bit of a trap. So have I missed? No, I haven't missed anyone. All right, so the next guy we're going to talk about is Liam Jones. Now, you guys are probably thinking, what the hell, he's 220k. He's going to make money. Now, he probably will, but I think his scoring could actually be quite poor. So if we bring up his history right here, look at some of these numbers, right? So his peak was 2017 with a 77, or say 78 average, rounding up. Now that's good. That would definitely make 150k, but I think on his career, it's just not great. Like, look at the numbers, especially at the Bulldogs. It's another thing to consider. So he started his career at the Bulldogs, and you might go, you know what? He's gotten older. He's gotten better as he's gotten older. He probably has. He's 32 years old. I don't know how good his body's going to be. Like, the age is just not good. I know we only need him for a few rounds, but I just think he's going to pump out some terrible scores. Let's go to his last season. And so, yeah, 147, 104. That's pretty good. But, like, just look at every other game, basically. Like, 52, 37. Is that what you want on the field? I mean, the only thing I like about the pick is the job security. I think the job security is there, and that's why I would maybe still pick him. But if there are better rookies named round 1, I mean, look, he scored 12 in round 5. If there are better rookies named round 1, I think you would be much wiser to do that, because I just don't like the Jones pick at all. And he's going to play lockdown, so you might think, oh, he scored 100 in the practice match, but he played North. They were literally just bombing it in and kicking to Liam Jones' advantage. I don't think he's going to play that pure intercept role. So the role's definitely not there. He'll probably, I think he could average 70, definitely could, but at the same time, he could average like 60. And is that really good enough? I don't think so, personally. I think you could I think you're better off taking a risk fielding someone like a Constable, who could maybe average 70 plus. But yeah, I just don't like the Liam Jones pick. I think, the practice match is very, very, we can't really trust that because he did play North. So moving on to the next guy I'm going to talk about, and that is Finn Callaghan. So I actually had him in my last team, but I'm just worried. So his history isn't great either. Now you're probably saying, well, he's got the role now. He's got a pure wing role. So 0 CBAs, I believe, in the practice match. And I actually heard George talking about this, and he said midfield spots are valuable this year, and they really are. So I think for what his price is a little bit awkward for what he could score, and he could be a big, big trap. So if we look at his stats in 2022, what did he average? 55 playing 5 games. I just don't like it. I know he looked good, and I know he's set for a big season and whatnot, but no CBAs it's a hard to score role, and I just think like we could fill that mid spot with something better and something safer, because like imagine you field a Will Phillips. Now Will Phillips is someone I've changed my opinion on from my last video. I actually didn't realize he got plenty of CBAs, and they played the Bulldogs, so I think Phillips' role is a lot better than what I thought. Cunnington and Simpkin coming in didn't actually affect him too much. So surprising, but looks like they're really going to trust Phillips in that role, and he'll be okay. But what I'm trying to say is, imagine you field a Callaghan over Will Phillips, and you're stuck with Phillips at M9, and Phillips is averaging 90, and Callaghan pumps out some 50s or 40s, which he's shown he has in the past. Like, that could hurt you, and you've paid an extra 100k or extra 70k for him. So I just think, I think there's better options. And like, he is very cheap, so the risk isn't too high, but I just think he's a little bit of a trap. And I can see why people would pick him, because he's very tempting. He's shown the ceiling, whatnot, blah blah blah. But for me, I just think that midfield spot could be used a little bit better. So going down, we're going to talk about Jack Bowes, and I think for now that is the last guy we're going to talk about. So Jack Bowes, picking him is very risky. So job security is up in the air. They've come out and said earlier that, he looks good, but, he's still got to fight for his spot, basically. So I don't like that at all. It's showing that he's not a lock in there, best 22. Obviously quite a good team to crack into. And it's literally a blind pick, picking Jack Bowes, because we haven't seen a proper practice match. And I know apparently he was good from all reports in the other game, but it's not. It's just not something I'd like to take a risk on, and the price is very awkward if he gets dropped. So yeah, I don't like the Bose pick at all. We had to see something this week, in my opinion, and we didn't, obviously. So yeah, I think Jack Bose is a trap. You don't start him, simply too risky. And he's one that, you know what, you could go someone risky in the back line, right? You could take a risk on like a Ridley. And Ridley's not the most risky player, but he is, you know, I think the role hasn't really changed too much. I think he just played a good game personally. So I wouldn't be picking Ridley, but he's not a like full-blown trap like these guys are, I think. But anyway, you could pick someone like Ridley, right? And then you could come round 3. If Bose is averaging like 90, you know he's going to make money. And Ridley started off a bit slow, just downgrade. I did that plenty last year, and like my starting team was terrible, and I traded quite well. I finished, I think, 800 or something. So obviously not the best ranking, but like you can trade aggressively with 36 trades. So I think that's why like not starting someone like a Bose is a really good idea, because you can just wait and see how it plays out and go from there. So that's all my traps. I'm going to start doing a team update on the end of each video, because I think it's a good idea. I think people, like, obviously teams are going to be changing quite frequently. I feel like I'm pretty set on this. Now you guys are probably going to look at Jeremy McGovern and you're going to be like, what on earth? This is the biggest trap ever. Now, one thing with McGovern is I know he has never been a full-blown top 6, top 8 premium. Like I just said about Ridley, I'm happy to take a risk on him and downgrade him to a mid-pricer or a rookie if they start well come round 3. But they have said on the broadcast, I watched that West Coast game really, really closely. I was pausing the video when they were going inside, when Adelaide were going inside 15 and everything. I was looking at how they were set up. So I was literally sweating this game, something shocking. But yeah, I think McGovern has got that intercept role. And you know what? I'm going to compare him to Tom Stewart. And if he has the Tom Stewart role, I think he can actually go bigger than him. I think he's a better mark. And I think he's a much better kick. So, and not only that, but he's going to get a lot of opportunity. I mean, they got blown out by Adelaide. You watch that first quarter. I would advise anyone who's doubting the McGovern pick, watch the first quarter. And it felt like West Coast didn't have an inside 50 for maybe like 25 minutes of that quarter. So I think their mids are getting absolutely destroyed. And I think McGovern's going to get so much opportunity. I think he had 2 kick-ins out of like 7. So the kick-ins probably, you know, it's not the best. He's going to get a couple. But I think he can really score from intercepts. He's going to be like a Ridley. And he's just going to get so much freaking opportunity. It's not funny. So if he's purely freed up, I reckon he could be a really, really good pod. Pump out some monster scores, especially early. And I don't think he would be the type to get tagged, but you never know, I guess. But yeah, I'm happy to take one risk on McGovern. I think it's a really good risk to take. Anyway, so yeah, we've got Doherty. I think he is a lock for top 6. I think he's going to get better from last season. Obviously, having cancer, so missed the whole year. I think he had an ACL or something as well. So his first full season under his belt, like since that, had a full preseason from all reports, as far as I know. So I think, yeah, he could just explode and go 110 back, maybe even back to his 115, 120 days. So really like the pick. Elliot Yeo, I think you still have to pick him. The upside's there. I think he just had a down game, and I think West Coast are going to get smashed a bit. But yeah, I think he'll be fine. For 330k, I'm pretty confident he can average 90, and the upside's clearly there. Gimby looked good. Constable, we don't know too much about his job security, and neither was Sincotter, which, yeah, concerns me a bit. But hopefully McKenna and Wilmot can hold their spots. I'm not sure about the defense yet. I'm hoping that structure can hold up with 3 quote-unquote premiums, or 3 non-rookies, I should say. But yeah, I really like the rest of my team structure. So Neil, Bont, McRae, Tom Green. I've been talking Neil up all preseason, so to not start him would be a big disservice to him and big disservice to everyone else. I just think he can go massive. You know, he scored 120 without any tackles. He was just cruising along, and like I said, I've got a gut feeling he won't get tagged this year. I think, yeah, Dunkley and Ashcroft coming in just make Neil sort of, you know, they're not going to take his spotlight, but he won't be as much of a hard carry in that midfield like he was last year, and previous years. So happy to take a risk on Neil, knowing he's a tag target, but knowing how hot he can start. I think Brisbane are going to win like majority games, and yeah, they looked unreal in the practice match. They're just so good. And then Bontempelli, so he looked unreal in the practice. I know he played North, and I know he scored 200 against North a couple of years ago. Why did Bulldogs always play North in the practice? Now I don't think about it. But the CBAs were there. There's not really any doubting with Bont. Champion Data loves him. So Jack McRae is one that's interesting. So I had a look at his numbers from 2020, 2021, 2022, and CBAs didn't directly correlate with his scoring. So that's a bit of a weird thing. I don't know what happened last year. Maybe when he wasn't in the middle, he was pushed to forward instead of a wing, and that's why he didn't score as much. I'm not sure. But he's one I'm really happy to take a risk on. I think the floor is quite high. I think the floor is probably what he averaged last year, which is 115, and the upside is 130 and M1. So I think McRae's got something to prove this year, to be honest. He looked okay in the practice match. Plenty of CBAs, which was good. That's pretty much all I needed to see. But yeah, he didn't play amazing, but he did junk it up at the end. So we do love that from McRae, and we know he does that quite often. Yeah, so I'm happy with the McRae pick for now. And then Tom Green, I think he's pretty certain to break out the roles there. Hopper, good. Warple's worked his way back in my team. I had him out for a little bit. I just think he probably guaranteed averages 90, maybe 100, anywhere in between that. And I just want to have those scores on the field at the moment. I think having someone like him over a Callahan who could pump out maybe 50s or 40s would give me a decent advantage on the rest of the competition. Then Ashcroft, McKenzie, and Phillips on the bench. So Phillips is one I wouldn't mind coming on, but I'm probably going to loop, or at least try and loop, Phillips and McKenzie and Baker between those guys. I think the rest of the guys on the field are decent and solid options. So McKenzie looked really good, but yeah, I think we've only really seen one game from him. So Wits, I think I'm locked in on Wits. Darcy has tempted me, and if I do need that extra 50, 40k or whatever, I will drop him. But I just think Wits is so safe. He rucked against Bruce, who Bruce is becoming kind of my favorite player because he is so entertaining. Like, he's not entertaining for good reasons, but like I went back and watched, and I did like a massive Bruce stalk, which you're probably thinking, what the hell am I doing? But he has been reported that many times in such a little amount of games. Off the top of my head, he's bloody elbowed Mundy in the back of the head. He's sling tackled English, sling tackled Grundy. What else? He's gone off the ball and bumped James Rowbottom, knocked him out. He's done the same to Merritt. Like, what is with this guy? He's actually a psycho. But I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's big and dopey and like looks a bit, I don't know, it looks a bit funny, I guess. But yeah, I just find it so funny watching him play and do all these dog acts, and then he's bloody suplexing people in the preseason. And I actually read up on an article saying that Bruce was going to calm down this season, and the coach has been talking with him. And yeah, let me get it up actually, because it is quite funny. Braden Bruce, trouble I was Googling. So yeah, he's going to apparently work on applying AFL aggression because yeah, he's quite dangerous. And like, I actually don't know how many times in the Rezzies he would have been reported or suspended. I'd love to see some footage because he's actually psychotic, I think. Anyway, that's probably enough Braden Bruce. Yeah, so Witts rucked against Bruce, who is a very strong ruckman, capable of suplexing, capable of being a WWE superstar. So yeah, and he had low time on ground and he scored well. So I think Witts is very safe, had a really good preseason from all reports, and I just think, yeah, the role's definitely the safest out of all those primo rucks. So you're paying up for him, but I think it's just worth it for that security. And I'm taking risks elsewhere in my team, so happy with that. And then Marshall, 506k. Not much to say about him. I think he's locked. Madden at R3, so he's my loop at the moment, but it could change to McAndrew. Probably will, and then I'll run a loop maybe somewhere in the mid. I'm not a big fan of not running a loop. I get really scared of just straight captaining people just because of injuries, and I had the Crips last year who scored 30 against Gold Coast, straight captain. So it's not something I want to risk, and it really does hurt your rankings big time. So if you have like a dead rookie compared to like a a loophole, a guaranteed loophole, I just much rather that guaranteed loophole and give that second chance at a good captain score. So yeah, Dunkley, not much to say about him. Taranto, I don't think he's a must-have. I think he will be top 6 almost guaranteed, but you don't have to start with him. Goulden, he could be a trap, but I think the CBA should be there. Like, he showed enough. And he's someone that I think it's a bit risky not to start. It's riskier not to start him than it is to start him at this point. Just going off ownership and ceiling, obviously. And then Jack Zeeble I've got in at the moment instead of Cogs. It helped me fill my structure elsewhere. And I think he's pretty safe to average anywhere between the 85 and 95 range. He's probably not going to get that many kick-ins, but similar to McGovern, he's going to get a lot of opportunity back there. And I know Hall probably takes some kick-ins if he comes back into the team. And who's the other one? There's someone else, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it was just McDonald, Hall, and him. But yeah, I'm happy to take the punt on Zeeble. If it flops, I'll swap him to someone like a Callahan or something via DPP. So like I said, these 300k players, they're not quite as risky as you might think, because you can just ship them off on that price change week. Yeah, so don't be too hesitant to start some mid prices, because if you do miss out, you will be hurt. Because like, think about Will Brodie last year, Tristan Cherry, Jack Zeeble from a few years back, 250k. Not picking players like this can actually ruin a season. I know plenty of people who got ruined by not picking a couple of those guys. So yeah, don't be scared to take some risks with these mid prices. And some of them are going to be traps. So we just got to try and navigate around. And yeah, in my opinion, the guys I have right now, they're risky, but they're not guaranteed traps. And I can see the upside there quite clearly. And Tanner Bruin, I think, looks like a star ready to break out. New role, just looks absolutely unreal. Played against the best midfield in the competition. So it's just green ticks everywhere. And Sam Flanders is one similar to Callahan, and I probably wouldn't pick Flanders if he wasn't a forward, but I just liked I think he had like 3 CBAs, so it's enough with the wing role. Hopefully he can maybe get, I don't know, a couple of tackles or something, maybe 1 clearance from them. But yeah, just as a forward, I don't like any forward rookies at this point. I think they're all roller coasters and no good roles. Like, you could go with Sheasel, but I think Sheasel's probably going to be majority forward. I know he could go back line, get a kick in, because he wasn't in the game. He played well in the end, scored like 70 something, but I just think we're relying on him to do that every game. How often are they going to get blown out that badly? Probably not too often. So Sheasel probably will stay on the forward line. But yeah, probably I don't like the Sheasel pick much, and there's no really other F6 that I would trust on field. So Flanders has to be in for now. And then yeah, Green on the bench, going to be a bit of a roller coaster, but upside's clearly there. And then Alwyn Davey looked pretty good, but yeah, probably will be similar. So yeah, there's a structure at the moment. I really like it. Obviously McGovern's the big risk, but yeah, happy to take the punt on him. Watch the game closely. You know, I really like the role he plays. As long as he can stay healthy, that should be all that matters. Plenty of opportunity back there, and I can see him going 105 plus, honestly, in that role. So fingers crossed. Massive pod, 1% ownership, but you know what? You got to risk it for the biscuit. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.